Hello everyone, this is Christopher Main, programmer for VerticalThird. In this video, we're going to explore the AI logic available in VerticalThird. AI logic in VerticalThird makes heavy use of the action system. I recommend watching the action system documentation videos before this video on AI logic. As a note, VerticalThird has custom AI logic and does not use the Unreal Engine Blackboard system. To follow along, you can open up the level example game map and head to the character spawn area. Let's create a new folder and name it database_NewGame. Here I'm selecting a tier 0 enemy spawner noted by the green cylinder. I hit Ctrl D to duplicate and drag it over to the center of the starting area. Note that there is a separate video in the description that goes through the details for the AI spawner. Let's take a quick moment to go over VerticalThird AI logic. AI in VerticalThird rotate through an action kit, a predefined list of actions. Within the action kit are the following categories: defense, engage, buff, heal, debuff, and offense. You can slot any action into these categories. The naming is representative of how the actions are activated, and do not force any specific action types. As an example, even though traditionally you would put a direct target heal under the heal category, you could also use the weakened ally as a target and spawn some area effect knockbacks around them, or spawn some fire around your ally to prevent melee from attacking. In the defense category, you could have a teleport backwards, or a resist buff. If a category does not have any actions, or all actions are on cooldown, it will skip that category. The categories are executed from top to bottom. First, we have the defense category. Actions that only activate when an enemy is within the range of the action. Note that if an enemy is out of range of actions in this category, the AI will not try to move to the target. Second, we have engage. These actions will only activate when an AI is in a moving to target state. The third category is buff, which will search for a nearby ally, randomly choose one of them, and cast an action using the chosen ally as the target. The fourth category we have heal, which will search for nearby allies under 70% health and cast an action using the chosen ally as the target. The fifth category is debuff, which will choose a random target on the threat meter and will cast an action using the chosen enemy as a target. Lastly is offense, which will use an action on the current target. This will typically be the target with the highest threat. Here's the overview for all of the actions. Note that an AI does not need an action in each category. Simple AI will have one action in offense, and that's it. In addition, AI can make use of the VerticalThird passive system, which can have actions activate on receiving or dealing a hit, critical hit, dodge, parry, or block. There are also resource percent passives that will activate when a resource reaches a specific percent. This is a great way to create boss encounter transitions, and through this statistics system, you can change the AI's action kit or appearance. Effectively, if a boss hit 75% health, you could change their action kit or their appearance, or just activate a standard action. Now that we have an overview, let's go through the basics of setting up an AI with an action kit and predefined actions available in the VerticalThird database. Let's start by duplicating some files. Click on the database folder. Now search for T00 Melee Blueprint. We will drag and drop this to our NewGame folder and click Copy. Now we can search Kit AI Melee T00. Once again, let's drag and drop this to the NewGame folder and click Copy. Then we can click on our NewGame folder and clear the search text. Now we can double click on the character blueprint. You might need to move or resize your window. And in this case, I'm going to have to click the blue text at the top that says Open Full Blueprint Editor. I'm going to resize my window so I can see the component list. Then scroll down to the AI Actions Manager. Once I click on it, I'm going to expand the Details panel, and we can search for Kit. Now we're going to take a brief moment to rename our files. For simplicity, I'm just going to name this character AI new. Then I'll rename the kit as Kit AI New. Then we can drag and drop the kit into the slot on the right. Then we can compile and save and close this window. The AI spawner also uses the action system. Because of this, we need to duplicate an actor spawn action. If we click on the spawner we duplicated earlier, we can look in the details panel and hit the magnifying glass on one of the data tables listed. We'll resize our window and then drag and drop this into our NewGame folder and click copy. Now let's click on our NewGame folder and we can rename this to Action Actor Spawn AI New. Then we can double click to open it up. To simplify our view, I will right click on the very top row that says New Row and click Collapse All. Then we'll expand our rows down to the action collection and keep expanding until we get to Actor Spawn. Once we're there, we will drag and drop our blueprint character into the slot seen here. Now we can close this window. Now let's select our AI spawner we duplicated earlier and scroll down the details panel. We're going to click the trash can on both of these lists that have 4 slots. Then we'll hit the plus sign on each one. The bottom one will leave with an index of 0. The top one that says Actors to Spawn Data Table, we will drag and drop our Actor Spawn Data Table. We can now resize our content browser down to the bottom. Now we're going to also modify the respawn time. We will set it to 5 seconds with a variance of 0. We're going to verify our play settings by clicking on the 3 dots by the play button. We need to make sure New Editor Window is checked, and then go to Advanced Settings. We need to make sure that Always on Top is checked on. Then we can close this window. We're going to start our AI action kit with a simple melee attack. Click on the database folder and search for melee attack space T00. We will drag this to our NewGame folder and click copy. Then we can click on the NewGame folder and clear our search text. We'll rename the file and make sure it's ending in melee attack _ new. Now we will double click on our kit AI new and we'll drag and drop our new melee attack into the bottom offense slot. We're going to keep this data table open, so make sure you position it just like on my screen. Here are a few quick notes about data tables in VerticalThird. Each data table can only be 1 row in length, and the row must be named New Row. If you hover the mouse over options in the data table, there will be tooltips that provide additional information. Now we can click play. We will resize our window and reposition it. You can use the middle mouse button or the Windows key to unlock the mouse. I'm going to walk over and pick up the cheat gear. This will help us one-shot the AI, so we can iterate quicker. You can pick up the loot by hitting F, then you can hit I to open your inventory, and right-click each item to equip them. I'm also going to briefly equip the healing orb, and heal myself up with the Q ability. Then I'll switch back to the sword and shield. If you take a look at the action kit, you can see our AI still has an engage category. Within it, we have an engage action. Let's see what the current results are. Once we are in aggro range, the AI starts to move towards me. Because it is in a moving to target state, it is able to execute the engage action. After the engage is complete, the only action left is to do the melee attack in the offense category. Here I click the trash can by the engage category, removing the dash action. I attack with left or right click to one-shot the AI and trigger a respawn. Now the AI will simply walk up to me and start attacking. If I click the trash can again on the offense category and have him respawn, the AI will still aggro, but it won't be able to do anything. Let's go back to our new game folder, clear our search text, and we can drag and drop our melee attack to the offense category. You may need to click the plus sign to add a slot back in. Now our AI is back to normal and can walk up to us and start using its melee attack. You can have more than one action in each category. Click the plus sign to add another slot, and in this slot we'll search for projectile space T00 space mage. We will select this data table and then change our rotation. There's linear, RNG, and sequence. We will select sequence and set up our rotation. This is merely a pattern. It's going to use the indexes above. In this case, it's going to use the melee attack, followed by the projectile. Then use the melee attack, followed by the projectile. You can take out the enemy to respawn, and you'll see it's going to follow that pattern. You can set these indexes to whatever you want. So it could be 001 for melee attack, then projectile. Let's click the magnifying glass by this action. It will select the content browser in blue, and we can double click to open it. Let's right click on the very top row and choose collapse all. Then expand it and go down to cooldown. One thing to always keep in mind when working with your rotation is that AI actions still have cooldowns. If you find one action is being used too often, you can increase the cooldown on the action. And vice versa, if it's not being used enough, you can decrease the cooldown. Here I increase the melee attack's cooldown to 30 seconds. We will make him respawn, and now he'll use his melee once and start just spamming his projectile. I'm going to set this back to 1 for now. Let's click back to our action kit. I'm going to click the down arrow on the melee attack and click delete. And then click the plus sign on the defense action category. I'm going to search teleport AI. We can choose the first one in the list. Let's respawn our AI again. One of the things you'll notice here is he gets stuck in his logic for his attacking. The offense rotation is still set to sequence, but there is one index, and we have set for 2 indexes in the rows below. This is just something to look out for, and we gotta make sure that we delete one of these so it only has index 0. Alternatively, we can set it back to linear, which essentially just means it's going to rotate through the actions as they come off cooldown. We will respawn our AI once more. Once we aggro the AI, they will start casting their projectile on us. Once we get in range of the teleport action slotted into defense, they will execute their teleport backwards. As a reminder, in VerticalThird, the AI functions on 4 times a second. So depending on where your AI is in its logic, it may take 1 to 2 seconds to kick in. Let's clear the defense actions. Let's go back down to engage, and we can add dash back. We can search dash T0 and select the top one. Let's drag and drop our melee attack back into the offense slot. We can reset the AI again. And you can see he is once again dashing at us and swiping with his melee attack. You can see he will never use his dash unless he is walking towards us. So once I start walking away, he begins to go into the move to target state, which allows him to dash to us. If we open up the dash by clicking the magnifying glass, you can see he has a cooldown of 15 seconds. So even if he's moving, he can still only dash once every 15 seconds. Now let's move on to buff. Click the plus sign by the buff category. We can search heal over time T00, and we can respawn our AI again. This time after they engage, since the buff category is executed before offense, it will start a heal over time. Since there are no other targets available, it will do it on themselves. Once again, let's click the magnifying glass and open up the data table. The cooldown is set to 15 seconds, so the heal over time will only activate once every 15 seconds. Let's close out of the action tables we have above, but leave the action kit. Now we'll click the garbage can on the engage category and the buff category. Here, I'm going to force my AI to respawn so they're not attacking me. We're going to head on to the heal category, but to do so, we need to lower our damage. I'm going to click the plus sign by the heal category, then search for direct target heal T00. Now we can select it from the list. Here's where I walk over to the starting area and grab the starting weapon. I open my inventory and switch the weapons, but I realize my equipment is still giving me too much power. So I open my inventory and unequip a whole bunch of pieces. Now I'm able to walk up and start to slowly damage the enemy. Once the AI goes under 70% health, it will start to heal. If we click the magnifying glass again and open up the data table, you will see that the heal is set to 15 seconds again. If we set this down to 1, it will continue to heal if it finds a target with 70% or less health. I open my inventory, equip my powerful sword, and force a respawn, and equip the weak one back. Since the cooldown is 1 second, every time this character gets down to below 70% health, it will try to heal. We can set this back to 15, and we will respawn our AI. Now we can click the garbage can on by the heal category, and the plus sign to the debuff category. In the debuff category, we'll search damage over time T00 and select the option. Once again, we will respawn our AI. The first thing this AI will do will try to debuff us with a damage over time. Unfortunately, with the cheat gear, it won't be able to land an attack on me. Once again, I'm going to unequip my gear so it can land an attack on me. And the first thing you can see here is it lands its damage over time, it's in the debuff slot, and I am losing health over time. Now let's add an action to every slot. We will add the teleport back to the defense slot. The T0 dash to the engage slot. The T0 heal over time to the buff slot. the direct target heal T00 for the heal slot. And now we can respawn our AI. I'll equip the weak sword so we can slowly dwindle down the opponent. As you fight through here, you can see that the AI is rotating through some of the actions. As mentioned earlier, VerticalThird AI functions at 4 times a tick. So every quarter of a second, it will choose a new action category. This is why sometimes it'll take a second or two for it to choose a category and use an action. Let's force a respawn to stop the attacking. As another big reminder, how your AI is going to rotate through all of these actions is very dependent on the cooldown. If something feels like it's not being used or casted enough, try making the cooldown lower, or if it's being used too much, try making the cooldown higher. Finally, let's move on to passives. We're going to search for Health Transition 01. And choose the action from the list. This is the health transition passive seen in the example display map. It will change their form and action kit every 25%. Note that this is a target dummy passive, so it will not be fighting back. Once it hits 75%, its form and action kit will change. And then once again at 50%. And finally at 25%. Now if we search for Transition 90, this is the Omni boss that is at the end of this example game. Let's respawn the AI. This time when the AI reaches 90% health, they get a whole action kit change and an appearance change. When the kit changes, it actually gets new passives. So in the case of the Omni boss, every time the passive changes, it gets a new one. Every roughly 10%, a transition will happen, and the appearance will change, and the action kit will change. As noted in the beginning of the video, you can create passives that function off hit, critical hit, dodge, parry, and block. When your character deals a hit or a critical hit, that is considered a passive my action. When you receive a critical hit or hit, that is when it's considered an enemy action. As we just went over, there are resource passes as well. For these examples, I focused on a form change, statistic change. But a resource percent passive can trigger any action, such as a massive knockback or explosion. It does not have to be a transition change. So you can see there's a lot you can dive into and play with when it comes to adding different actions and creating AI that responds very differently. This concludes our exploration on the VerticalThird AI setup. There will be more videos on creating AI in the future. If you have any questions or comments, please reach out to us through one of our social media channels or on Discord.